Dixie here. Today I want to talk about tips every backpacker should know about clothing. The first tip I want to mention is don't pack too much. Pretty much in 3-season weather, so spring, summer, and fall, depending on where you're at, the only thing you're really going to need is an outfit to hike in during the day, an outfit to sleep in at night, and then some sort of insulating layer like a puffy or a fleece, a couple pair of underwear, and maybe a few pairs of socks, and that is it. But to be honest, if your sleep system is rated properly, you probably don't even need an outfit to sleep in at night. But it's still a good idea to have a warm, dry change of clothing just in case. Next, protect your sleeping outfit from getting wet with redundancies. You may have, say, like a waterproof pack and then some sort of dry bag to put your outfit into inside of your waterproof pack. And the reason that I stress having something warm and dry to change into is even in colder weather, you can sweat during the day. And you don't want to keep that damp clothing on you when you go to sleep at night because it can lead to hypothermia. Another tip you'll hear pretty frequently in the backpacking world is cotton kills. Now, obviously cotton is not poisonous or it doesn't just choke you in your sleep at night, but cotton is known to absorb moisture and then hold on to it, and it doesn't dry out very quickly. So if you end up getting sweaty while you're hiking during the day and then you go to sleep in those clothes and they happen to be cotton, it's going to hold on to that moisture and again can lead to hypothermia. But it's not a good idea to go to bed in damp clothes regardless of what they're made out of. But even if you sleep in cotton on a cold night and you end up sweating because your sleeping bag's really warm, you might wake up freezing cold then, and again this can lead to dangerous things like hypothermia. So it's better to use things like wool or synthetics because they do a better job of wicking moisture away from your body, or especially wool insulating your body, keeping you warm even if it does happen to get damp. Now, with that said, if you choose on a hot summer night to sleep in a pair of cotton shorts or a cotton t-shirt because it feels light and airy and comfortable, well, that's probably going to be okay. And some people prefer in a dry, warm situation like hiking in a desert to have a cotton t-shirt because it gives them some more moisture to kind of hold on to and help cool them down. So there are applications for everything, but in general, it's good to avoid cotton while backpacking. Next, you should know that merino wool has been king of the backpacking clothing world for some time now. A lot of people like merino wool because it's pretty soft and it's not your granddaddy's World War II wool blanket, but also it does a good job of keeping you warm even if it's damp, so like while you're sweating or if you get rained on, and it doesn't stink as bad as if you wear synthetic clothing for a few days. Some people use merino wool for everything from shirts to underwear and socks. Now, I've heard people say that wool is a natural antimicrobial and that's why it doesn't stink as bad as synthetics, but I actually found this little write-up talking about merino wool and how actually when that fabric is tested, it seems to have more bacteria than synthetics, but they kind of dived into why it still might stink less. But interestingly enough, this write-up mentioned that even if you have a blend with wool and synthetics, like 80% synthetic and only 20% wool, it stinks about as much as if it was 100% wool. So I thought that was pretty cool and would really kind of solve the problem for people who might have an issue with the fact that wool might not be as durable over time as synthetics. So maybe that's the sweet spot between not stinking as bad and also still having some durability. With all of that said, I've been hearing about alpaca fleece for quite some time now, and I actually just ordered some socks from a company called Paka, P-A-K-A. I'll let y'all know how those work out, but what finally sold me to get them is that they have the lifetime warranty like the Darn Tough and Farm to Feet socks that I currently use that are merino wool. So hopefully I will love these potentially more, but just as much. But from everything I've read, it seems like alpaca might actually be better than merino wool for the application of clothing for backpacking in many ways, at least. Like, it's claimed to be warmer, it is more water resistant, and apparently it is naturally softer than merino wool, which has to be like ultra processed to be as soft as it is, and therefore the alpaca is actually more eco-friendly because it's not having to go through all of that processing. The only downside that I really saw is that it's not as breathable, but for people who are cold-natured like me, that might actually be not such a bad thing. My first impression putting them on is they are very soft and comfortable. It's of course hard to tell if they're much warmer wearing them just around the house, but from this first little test wearing them for a day in normal life, I'm looking forward to using them on trail. So anyway, when you're shopping for backpacking clothing, don't sell alpaca short. It might be something that you want to try out, and I'm actually going to get more of it now, and I'll let y'all know what I think. My next tip is wear what you have at home. I know that I just went into a whole spiel about merino wool and alpaca, but you don't have to go out and buy these fancy clothing items and the best name brands to be a successful backpacker. I mean, remember Grandma Gatewood did it in like her farm clothes and some kids. So anything that you have at home that is some sort of athletic type synthetic wear will work just fine for backpacking. And if you don't have anything like that, then I highly recommend hitting up your local thrift store because you can usually find some pretty good stuff there. But if you're gonna invest in one good thing, let it be socks. I personally prefer to go with a company that has a lifetime guarantee. So you might pay a premium up front, like 15 to 20 bucks, but you'll have them forever or you can get them replaced. I typically use, like I mentioned before, Darn Tough or Farm to Feet, but now maybe this Paca brand will be something I use going forward. But having some sort of merino wool or alpaca is going to help pull the moisture away from your foot, which is always a good thing when backpacking, because having added moisture near your feet can contribute to blisters and other foot funk. So with the cotton thing, I would definitely say at all times avoid cotton socks. That's just kind of a no-no. My next tip for clothing is if you find yourself having chafing issues, switch up your britches, because that might be a leading reason why you're having those chafing issues. You might need to go from something that's loose to something more fitted, like compression shorts, or I like to hike in leggings, or maybe you're in something tighter and you need to go to something more loose that gives you more aeration down there. And your underwear may also be an issue. Some people definitely love to have underwear, and some say they can't wear it because they get too much chafing. So anyway, if you're having those issues, I would start with switching up your clothing on your lower half. My next tip is layering. Layering is very important in the world of backpacking. You might think as a beginner in the cooler months that you want to go with bigger and bulkier because that's going to equal warmer, but with backpacking, that's just not the case. It's best to have multiple, even thinner layers that you can add or take off to help regulate your body temperature. I would start with like a base layer or a shirt of some sort, then maybe a mid layer like a light fleece, then an insulating layer like a puffy coat, for example, or a heavier fleece, and then finally a waterproof shell like a raincoat. So having all of those options and different combinations, you can really tune in to what you need while you're actually backpacking and even while you're sleeping. But with layering, let me warn you that sizing is important. So when you're going to pick this stuff out, if you go to a store and you're trying on a raincoat, for example, keep in mind that at some point you might want to have 3 layers up under that raincoat, or maybe only 1. So you want something large enough to where you can actually fit multiple layers underneath, but not too large to where 1, you've got more space to warm up, but also 2, it's uncomfortable. My next tip is remember that your clothing choices are the best way to protect you from the sun. And yes, I understand that you can take sunscreen, but most people don't really reapply it like they should. So picking out the right clothing ahead of time is the most solid plan to protect yourself from the sun. And this is coming from somebody who used to backpack in tank tops and shorts because they were cool, like not just, oh, so cool, but like cool to help you not be so hot. But after a couple of skin cancer scares, I've just realized that it's better to go with something like a sun hoodie that's breathable but still protects my arms and my upper half from the sun. Leggings. I even wear sun gloves to protect the backs of my hands, and a hat. And my final tip is, if you find yourself nervous about clothing selection, then just remember you could test it out on a day hike. I was so stressed before the AT about, am I gonna have enough clothing to stay warm? Am I really gonna only have an outfit to hike in and an outfit to sleep in, and like embrace that stink? So take something with you on a day hike and see how it works out for you. That layering plan, make sure that you're staying warm during the day and comfortable, you're not dealing with chafing. Then for the clothing situation at night, a way to have a no stress situation while you're testing it out is backyard camp. And make sure that in your sleeping bag set up with your shelter, that the clothing that you've chosen is going to keep you warm throughout the night. Because in that situation, if it doesn't, then you could go back inside and try again another night, or go back inside and switch out to a different option and then, you know, go back to the tent and try it out. But that's always an option, having the ability to test things out in a less stressful type situation where you can always go to your car or go home. All right, y'all, well, that is all I have for you today on backpacking clothing. If you've got any tips or suggestions you've learned along the way that you would like to share that I did not include in this video, then please feel free to put those in the comments below. Thank y'all so much for watching, and we will see y'all next time.